Hello BookTube, Books with Banks back again with another video today. Today I'm going to be doing my first book haul video. It might go without saying, but no spoilers for anything I'm going to talk about. So if anyone's worried about that, don't be. This is my first book haul, and I'm sorry it's a little bit gloomy outside. I hope you guys can see me okay. So this is not the biggest or the hauliest of book hauls, but I did get a number of things during a Barnes & Noble trip yesterday. And first, we're going to talk about Discworld by Terry Pratchett. So I've picked up what I understand to be the first 4 published books in the Discworld series. A friend at work and a commenter on one of my previous videos, they both suggested I read this. I've heard wonderful things. It's a bonus that these are all pretty short, and they could function as a nice break between my reading of things like Malazan or Outlander, those heavier tomes. And of course, I mean like heavy in physical weight, but also in the content and the things they deal with. So when I was at the store yesterday, I texted my friend, I asked, where should I start with Discworld? And he asked back, do I want witches, wizards, or heroes? Anyone familiar with the series might be able to elaborate a little bit more on exactly what that means. But even when he asked me that, just kind of thinking of those 3 character archetypes, I was still a bit undecided. I kind of figured I'd be happy enough reading any of it. All 3 kind of sound equally appealing. So then I figured I would try the series just in publication order, starting with The Color of Magic, even though that might be a mistake. Anyone with further advice on this series, please let me know your thoughts down below. I feel like I've heard somewhere that starting with Color of Magic isn't a good idea. I'm not exactly sure why, and I'm not exactly sure if that's just a taste or a matter of taste thing. But yeah, so that's where I'm going to at least try to start. And these 4 books are all by Terry Pratchett. First, The Color of Magic, published originally in 1983, but this and these editions are much more recent, I believe 2013 or so. And this one has an introduction by Terry and Lynn Pratchett from 1989. Second here, I have The Light Fantastique, first published 1986. And then I have Equal Rights, first published 1987, as well as Mort, first published in 1987 as well. So I like that these, or so far, and I hope the next I get in the series are all a matching edition. However, I've never been the biggest fan of these sort of like stretched out mass market paperback formats. I love mass market paperback format, but not so much when they get like extra tall like this, because it kind of makes, even if the pages aren't much narrower or any narrower, it makes them feel narrower and skinnier. It's okay here though, just because these books are relatively short, and I find this format only really bothers me when we get to like the 400 plus page mark. So that was part 1 of part 2. My excitement to get into Terry Pratchett. Just picked up those 4. Now, part 2. Let me flex my kind of nerdy muscles a little bit. I picked up some Shakespeare. Woohoo! So these 3 are all published by Simon & Schuster. These updated editions were published in 2016, and these are the versions of the plays from the Folger Shakespeare Library. They say on the top, updated edition, Folger Shakespeare Library. I love these editions for all of the bonus content we get here, outside of just the text of the original plays themselves. First and foremost, talk about the comedies. I have not yet read or ever seen any type of production or adaptation of either of these 2 plays, though I have heard nothing but good things. Let it be known also that on my channel, or I focus on my channel on fantasy and sci-fi, and these 2 have strong fantasy elements in them, at least from what I understand, not having read them yet. I'm only going to talk about all of the extras in great detail with the first one, as the other 2 have similar formats, and it could get a little redundant. So first we have A Midsummer Night's Dream, with a note at the beginning from the Folger Library's director, Michael Whitmore, then an editor's preface by Barbara A. Moat and Paul Werstein. These are specifically the editors of the 2016 editions, and then there's 43 pages at the beginning of additional introductory essays. These are in order titled Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, then Reading Shakespeare's Language, A Midsummer Night's Dream, then Shakespeare's Life, then Shakespeare's Theatre, and then the publication of Shakespeare's plays, and finally, an introduction to this text. And at the end, after the textual notes, there's this article written by Catherine Belzy, Midsummer Night's Dream, A Modern Perspective. I like that this article is placed after the body of the play, so to kind of suggest to the reader to read it after we're more familiar with the actual text itself. And then after her article, there's a further reading section with references and explanations of other scholarly texts, particularly those referenced and used to write all of those introductory essays I listed. And last but not least, there's this key/index thing for the famous lines and phrases and quotes right at the end of the book. This is so useful for making someone like me look even like more of a nerd at parties and stuff. And then, in addition to Midsummer Night's Dream, I also picked up The Tempest. So I'm really excited to read both of these, as I've never read them. I anticipate being relatively quick reads. Midsummer Night's Dream, The Tempest. And last but not least, the third of these three Shakespeare I picked up is a tragedy, and the only one of these three that I have already read, and this is King Lear. I actually read this online earlier this year, but I loved it so much and I really wanted a physical copy. I'm super excited to dig into all of the bonus content offered here, similar to all of the things listed in A Midsummer Night's Dream. To give credit where it's due, this also has an article at the end, and this one is called King Lear, A Modern Perspective, and this is written by Susan Snyder. This edition also has an appendix all about the differences between the, I believe it says the quarto and the folio versions of the play. From what I understand, because I'm not too read up on it, King Lear has a couple different versions, or some scenes, I think in like around Act 3, are written different and performed differently, depending on which version you're reading or which one you're using, and it's always like edited, presented in weird different ways, and so some include these differences and add-ons, some don't include those. I think that's the crux of the issue with Lear, with like how it's printed and what's cut out, what's added that might not have been written in the original. I'm not exactly clear on that, but I'm sure reading all the bonus content in here will help clear that up for me. And regardless of those differences, this is a beautiful play all about madness, ambition, inheritance, just those classic kind of Shakespeare themes he puts in most of his tragedies. The only two Shakespeare plays I might like more than this, right now at least, are it's probably Julius Caesar and Richard II. Those two is going to be hard for any other Shakespeare to beat. It would be hard for any author to beat how I feel about the Julius Caesar and Richard II. So yeah, I also really wanted a copy of Lear because there's some stuff I've read this year that isn't strictly like a novel, and I wanted to make a video. About like all the graphic novels, short stories, novellas, and plays I've read this year, and I really wanted to have a physical copy of Lear to, be able to hold up like this whenever I make that video, come December or January, whenever. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're excited to hear me talk more about Discworld, and especially if you want more Shakespeare content, please comment down below. If you have any thoughts on this collection of 7 shorter works, and especially if you want me to dive into any of these 7 things right away. As always, thanks for watching, and anyone who would share this or my other videos with their friends would be much appreciated. Thank you so much. Goodbye.